Hey, and welcome back to my channel. I'm playing in the Dina Wakley Media Journal today. It's one of my favorite techniques to use these white pages with watercolors. To make the watercolors flow better on this paper, I have primed it with aqua ground. Before adding any color, I add some texture to the background using the Rubber Dance Vintage Postcard Stamp, and I'm using, I believe, archival or STAYS-ON ink, because as I want to work with watercolors, it should be waterproof. I'm using a stencil from Stencil Girl to create some texture on the background. I believe that this is a stencil from Carolyn Doobie, and it's something called like Picasso words or so. I'm using texture paste with that stencil, and when I do this I always think about buttering a bread, and for me that makes it easier to get a good result. It's also the quality of the texture paste you are using, and I think this is very difficult. I have one here, and I bought this in a craft store online about 3 or 4 years ago, and it hasn't dried out yet, and it dries really quickly when you have it on the page, and it has such a awesome consistency. I really love it, and the only thing that's on the bottle, it says pigment as the company name maybe, and I have no idea where I can get this texture paste again when my bottle is empty. I'm really curious to know which texture pastes you are using and which ones you prefer the most. I had the DecoArt Media paste and I was also really happy with this one, but all the others I've tried were not as good as this is, so maybe you have a good tip for me. Today I'm working with the Derwent watercolors. I purchased both of their travel palettes and put the watercolors in the box from the EasyGo palette. EasyGo is just a cheap watercolor brand you can purchase on Amazon, and I just bought it because of that nice box for the watercolors. And now I put in these Derwent colors and I'm really happy with them. They have the same properties as the Derwent Inktens blocks. I believe they have different color names, but I'm not 100% sure. But they work beautifully and they have a nice pigmentation, and they have the property of a ink and not of a watercolor. That means that when they dry on paper, you can reactivate them. I'm working intuitively. I'm picking some greens and blues today because I want to add a flower arrangement on top, and I just let the paints flow down, and that creates an interesting effect together with the texture paste. After I've dried my background with my heat tool, I go on top with my palette knife and white gesso, and I just go slightly over the page to highlight that texture paste I've added before. I don't mind putting the gesso on the right page, as this is the canvas in the Dina Wakley Media Journal, and I really have absolutely no idea what to do with that. And so I thought maybe I will add some of the texture paste and some gesso, and maybe next time I'm playing I can add some acrylic paints or things like that, and maybe sometimes it will be also an interesting page. I want to add some of my brand new stamps, the loose florals, to this page, and what I've done here is I've stamped a bouquet using the masking technique, and I've stamped it to Bristol paper and colored it in quickly with watercolors. And you can do this by just stamping the first flower that should be on top, and then stamp the flower to a post-it note, cut that out, lay it on top of your flower you've stamped to your Bristol paper or watercolor paper, and then you stamp the next one. And when you remove the post-it note, it will look like as if the one flower sits on top of the other. And I did the same with dead leaves. I will make a video with this technique as soon as I will use it again. Before I adhere my flowers, I'm stamping some more texture to the background using one of the doodle borders from Rubber Dance. And here I'm also going in with one of our grungy borders. I'm bringing in some of that red I've used also on the flowers to just make the page look more cohesive. That's something I almost do every time I'm using the same colors on my main image as I've done on the background, because that makes the page look as one big picture and not as two separate things, if that makes sense. And here you can see that I've used the blue on the leaves and the green on the leaves, and it's the same that I've used already on the background. I'm creating some splatters before I stick down my flowers, and splatters always make a page look more vibrant, and it's something I really like. To finish up the page, I glue my flowers down, and also a sentiment that I've stamped with the Rubber Dance Journal Word Stamp Set. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope we see us next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!